How to track construction progress. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the real way to track the progress of your project on site. So we will cover how to not do this, how you can actually measure progress in a real way, and what it actually is that you're measuring. So these are great concepts. I hope you're ready for this, so let's go. Okay, so let's dig into this. Let me give you some things that do not matter and that do not help you. So let's just go ahead and start out with the first one. Identifying and measuring a critical path is not a help. Let me tell you why. For a couple of reasons, a critical path can network activities, but it does not create flow for the trades. It only increases your work in process, which will extend your overall duration. It's not easily seen. It will change multiple different times. And it's based off of the fallacy that you know what your most critical activities are and that you can add resources, labor, and focus there to make them go faster, which is simply not true. What you should be using is the TAC production system with TAC plans, never CPM. The other thing that you should not be using is EVM, Earned Value Management, where you measure the progress of a project by how much money you have earned and spent for materials and by how much money you have spent on contractors putting work in place. And again, this is incentivizing you to spend more money faster, which actually gives you all four of the major causes for production loss, which is bringing out too many people, increasing your work in process, bringing out too many materials, and rushing and pushing and panicking, and that will extend and panic your job as well. So EVM is not a good measurement. Float trends, again, not a good measurement, because in a CPM schedule, you can dissolve logic and gain more float, and it's not an accurate representation. So float trends, not a good measurement. Slippage reports are completely useless, especially in CPM schedules, because all they do is tell you you're behind schedule. You can just do that by opening up your eyeballs, and it gives no good measurement or fix for how to recover that project. Not percent plan complete when it comes to last planner and CPM. If you use last planner and TACT, it's good, but percent plan complete from last planner and CPM is a worthless measurement because it's not measuring anything according to a production system or giving you real data. It's only telling you what your score is in a chaotic environment without the root cause. Not budget either. Measuring your project progress based on budget is not a good measurement because again, when you start doing that, you'll start cutting costs and not putting enough effort into planning. Your ability to get to the lowest bid is not a measurement of project success because it's never the lowest bid, it's the lowest cost, and lowest bid is never the lowest cost. Another horrible measurement is how few issues you have. All that means is the project team is hiding their problems and their issues, which means that they can't solve them. So having a lack of issues is never a good measurement. Not baselines. Baselines are completely worthless. You're probably thinking, Jay Money, you're being negative, but I'm about to get into the positive stuff. A baseline is basically a static, frozen schedule that's frozen in time, showing what the target is for the project. And so you have to keep all the activities and the activity IDs the same so that you can later do a baseline comparison, which means you can't change the schedule. And if you can't change the schedule, it's not real. It's not accurately representing what's happening in the field. And so since you can't change it, it's not a useful tool. And if you did change it, you can't then compare it to the baseline. So baseline comparisons are worthless. And another measurement which is used quite frequently is how insane people feel about the project. Whether or not your owner or your owner's representative or the architects or corporate feels like you're going fast enough is a completely insane measurement. It has no bearing in the real world. I highly recommend you stick with your production plan and stick to data instead of emotions. Remember, the book is Think and Grow Rich. It's not, as Keith Cunningham always says, feel and have a glandular reaction towards things and get rich. That's never how it goes. It's always think, and thinking using real data. So I'm going to give you a couple of real measurements that you can use to track the progress of your project. So let's go. Number one, managing handoffs. In the TACT production system, a handoff where you transition one trade in a zone to another trade by moving forward. So that means if I had a trade here that was moving into this zone, at their tack time, they are going to pull another contractor that was in another zone into that zone and move forward in a flow from zone to zone. So this is zones, right? According to their tack time. So this right here is called a handoff. And the handoff is basically saying, you know, are you clean? Is everything done? Is it inspected? Have you demobilized? You know, this handoff is crucial to pull this other contractor in there. So a great measurement on your project is the percentage of successful handoffs, and you want to be above 80%. Another one that you can track that's real is roadblocks removed. So let's say that, and you can look at it either direction, however you want to look at it. Maybe I'll just draw it in the way schedules are typically written. Let's say that this is today. So this is what most people would call a data date. And you're looking out a week in advance for your weekly work plan. And you're also looking out, and this isn't exactly to scale, but you're looking out 6 weeks ahead with your make ready look ahead plan. Well, what we want to be doing is finding and removing roadblocks. So let's say there's a roadblock, and what happens is that roadblock will continue to track until it's removed. And so what I want to know when I'm measuring roadblocks is the average before impact. So the amount of time that roadblocks are being removed on average before they actually impact your work. So this is called and I'll draw it right here, the roadblock removal average. And if you have a larger number, then that is better, because that means that you are removing roadblocks and getting rid of their impact out ahead of the work, farther out ahead. So that roadblock removal average, I want to see anywhere from 5 to 15 days on average that roadblocks are being removed before they impact work. These are all leading indicators, by the way. Another measurement that I really like is milestones. So in the TAC production system, in the example that I typically use, when you have different phases, the phases, as we've discussed before, have a sequence, a line of balance, and then a buffer for that phase, which gets your milestone. So these milestones, I'll just do a circle at each of these, can be pulled up to the top of your schedule so that you know the different milestones for the project, okay? And one of the things that I like to do, and it's talked about in the book, How Big Things Get Done, is also doing what's called inch stones. So inside this phase, do we have little markers along the way? So measuring your project by how well you are hitting your milestones in accordance with how well your inch stones are going is a really great way to track your progress on your project. Another one which is genius in the TAC production system, you can measure production or trade flow. And this is super key. So I'm not going to draw the whole phase, but a trade partner, let's say you had zones 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And that trade partner should be moving on a tack time from zone to zone to zone. It's absolutely fantastic. So moving from here to here to here to here. You can always monitor in your schedule your production in addition to those milestones by understanding if there's any overrun. So when you as-built this first activity, okay, it took a little bit longer. Okay, not a big deal, that could trend down. But if then the second activity was like this, then you know that the third activity is going to be out, and it's just going to start cascading in a bad direction. And so tracking your progress really doesn't happen just with one-off activities. It mainly happens with repetitive activities and comparing the line of balance that was designed in the production system with the actual and tracking the progress on that level of detail. And then the last one I want to talk to you about is if you have your schedule obviously out ahead in whatever level of detail. Typically this would be a norm level schedule, and you're looking out, like I said, a week in advance, and you're looking out 6 weeks. You're obviously going to be looking at the roadblocks, but one of the key things that you want to do is make sure that your activities are made ready, and that each one of these activities has what they need, which will end up being the labor, the tools, the equipment, the actual layout, the materials, permissions, and the information. Okay, so one of the things that you can really track if you want to know the status of your project is how far out we're actually making work ready in addition to seeing those roadblocks. So that gives you a nice pattern. You can say, all right, if this is the work package here, are we getting the labor to the people? Are we getting the tools and equipment to the people? Is layout happening out ahead? Do we have the supply chain for the materials hitting on time with our material procurement log and the tracking of the supply chain? Do we have all permits out ahead? And do we have all of the information? And is this flowing? So this is really it. These are the things that I would highly recommend that we focus on instead of the other worthless metrics which I've already talked to you about. Besides that, when you use this in this format, there's always ways in the TAC production system where you can recover if you get behind. It's not just a we're behind and we don't know what to do. It's a hey, we can see if we're behind and we have lots of options. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to give you a Canva graphic showing these different techniques and also a link to our TAC steering and control boards, which I think you'll love, and a contact so you can get in touch with our team if you want to start tracking the right metrics for your project. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.